Hi, hello. My name is Bong Austero. Welcome back to my channel. This is a second part of the series of videos on HR, in particular how to get hired. In the first video, we talked about how to prepare for the selection process. Okay, in the second video, we'll talk about how to prepare for the interviews. Okay, as many of you know, the interview is one of the most important parts of the selection process because it's the first time you actually get to meet that people in HR actually get to meet the candidates in person. And this is the opportunity for people in HR to fully evaluate the competencies of the candidates. And the whole process is really trying to find out if there really is a fit between two things. Fit between the candidate and the company in terms of the personality, and the needs and aspirations of the candidate vis-a-vis that of the company. And the second is the fit between the candidate's qualifications and the technical requirements of the job that he or she is applying for. So it's really finding out if there is a perfect match. No? So that is why people in HR ask sometimes very detailed questions. So in this video, we'll talk about how you prepare for the interview. Okay, first off, and this is very, very, very important. When you apply for a position in a company, the probability that HR will do a background check is very, very high. In fact, actually, most companies hire external companies, external groups to conduct a background information check or background verification on candidates, especially if you're applying for a very sensitive position in the company. But very often, or most often than not, the people in HR, the first thing they do is to check the social media of the candidate because that's the easiest to check. So my first tip for you is make sure that your social media image is aligned with your desired public persona. And I'm going to tell you a real story. Okay, there was this candidate, there was a former student of mine that I wanted to recommend for a position. I wanted to help get a job in a company that he wanted, and it was a dream job for him. And I thought he was really qualified for it. No? So I called up my friend who was another HR head, and I said, hinard self. I said, you should really consider this candidate because I think that he is very, very qualified. No? Unfortunately, he was torn down. So I had to call my friend and said, "Oh, what happened? Why didn't you consider the person?" And he said, "Bong, I'm going to send you a link. Click it and then look at it and then get back to me." So I did. He sent me an email. I clicked at the link, and it was the social media postings of the candidate that I was recommending. And boy, was I shocked at the kind of social media persona the person had. He was very antagonistic.
Oh
It's not really about your political beliefs. It's not about that. It's how you argue in social media. If you're very antagonistic and if you're rude to people and if you don't know how to fight or how to, kung pikon na pikon ka and then you curse in your social media accounts, that's a major, major turn off to companies. No? So I would strongly suggest that you review your social media accounts and make sure that the persona that people see there is aligned or consistent with the persona that you want to project in your job search process. Okay, so how do you prepare for the job interview? Like I said, the job interview is probably one of the most important parts of the jobs selection process. The first one, of course, is read up on the company and about the job that you're applying for. Make sure that you know exactly where you're applying. You have information about the company, about the job that you're applying for. Because this shows initiative. There is nothing worse than being asked, "What do you know about us?" and your answer is, "I don't know anything about your company." At the back of the HR person is probably thinking, ba't ka nag-a-apply sa amin? Hindi mo pala kilala kung sino kami. Also about the job that you're applying for, okay? Don't come to the interview process with the with the attitude that says, I'm here to accept anything that you have for me. That doesn't speak well of you, okay? You will surely be asked what you know about the company and about the job that you're applying for. In fact, you're going to be asked for sure what in your background has prepared you for the job that you're applying for. And if you don't know the job that you're applying for, then you're not going to be able to answer that question. Um, Having this having information about the company, how long it has been in existence, whether it's, what awards it has won and what is it known for, will help you become more conversant about the company and makes you feel more confident in the interview process. The second tip is plan to arrive on time or at least early. And you can only do that if you anticipate Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law says if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. I've been in many situations where, I'm supposed to interview a person at 9 and the person, calls at 9 and says, I'm stuck in traffic. I didn't expect traffic to be this bad. O kaya at 9:30 na, tapos sasabihin niya, nawawala ako kasi hindi ko alam kung saan yung opisina ninyo. O kaya stuck in an elevator somewhere or went to the wrong office or went to the wrong floor. So the only way you can plan to arrive early or on time is, in military terms, they call it reconnaissance. Check the location of the office ahead of time. Okay, and then prepare by, finding out, if there's traffic going there, what's the best route going there, where do you park, and where exactly is the office located, so that you anticipate all the things that will probably go wrong. Okay, so that's number 2. The third tip is reconfirm the interview. Okay, call up HR or call up the recruitment person 2 days or a day before the interview to reconfirm the interview. Because sometimes, something comes up and, yung pala hindi matutuloy. Okay? It also conveys the impression that you are excited about the job, that you care about the interview process, and that you have initiative. Okay? So, and then, very, very important, ask for details. Okay? So, call to reconfirm the interview, the time, the location. Get the information about who is the person who will talk to you. There is nothing more embarrassing than you're sitting down with a person and you don't know the person's name. Sometimes interviewers, do that trick. Do you know who I am? Because they like to find out if you have initiative. Sometimes, if you have 2 or 3 interviews, the third person will ask, so who did you sit down with? Okay, so who did you talk to first or second? And if you don't know the names of the person, that will make you come across as somebody, who does not have presence of mind. Kinausap ni tao, hindi mo alam kung sino siya. Okay? Magtanong ka, anong kailangan mong dalhin? May kailangan ka bang dalhin? Okay? Because sometimes, they expect you to bring certain things like your a sample of your work or your transcript of records or whatever it is. Okay? Then you ask, what is the acceptable attire? Okay, it's okay to ask that because nothing is more uncomfortable when you walk into an office for an interview and you are overdressed. You're clearly overdressed. Okay, that has happened to me many times because in the bank that I work for, on Fridays we come in t-shirts, okay, and wearing slacks, and we allow rubber shoes. Okay, and if the person comes in, wearing a 3-piece suit, that the person is clearly overdressed for the occasion. So it's very important that you ask. And there's nothing wrong with asking about these details. So ask, what is the acceptable attire? Okay. Also, you can also ask, how long is the interview process? Okay. How long will it take? Because, sometimes there are delays. And if you're rushing off to another appointment, yung pala, your appointment, your interview is supposed to happen at 2, and then, you have an appointment at 5, at baka maipit ka. So you better make sure that you know exactly how long it's going to take. And then, who will interview you? What are their positions? Because for all you know, you're going to be interviewed by a director or the president himself of the company. So it's best to be prepared, okay? So tip number 4 is prepare and master an elevator speech. You're probably wondering, what is an elevator speech? So the scenario is this. You meet the person at maybe the 14th, 15th, or the 18th floor of the building inside an elevator. And there are only two of you, and he asks you a question. And the only time that you have is the time that it takes the elevator to travel from the 18th floor down to the ground floor. That's all the time you have. So you should be able to do your pitch within that period of time, that short period of time. That is called an elevator speech. Now, you will always be asked in the interview to talk about yourself. Now, sometimes it's the first question that an interviewer asks. So tell me about yourself. So make sure that you have a prepared elevator speech. Your prepared elevator speech must be aligned with, the job that you're applying for. So briefly talk about who you are and what you're bringing to the job, why you are the perfect person for the job that you're applying for. Prepare to answer the most basic questions. There are some staple questions in a job interview process. It's a given that you will be asked to talk about who you are. Okay, it's a given that you will be asked to talk about your previous job experiences and your accomplishments in each of the jobs that you handled in the past. Okay, you're going to be asked how did you perform in your previous job? What were your performance ratings? What did people say about you and the kind of job that you did? You'll be asked maybe if you're applying for a supervisory position or your managerial position, then you'll be asked to talk about how do you manage your day? How do you manage stress? Okay. Or tell me about the most challenging problem or the most challenging situation that you've experienced in your life and how you handled that situation. It's an invalid question, but sometimes interviewers ask questions like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? How do you see yourself 10 years from now? Those are buy time questions. They ask those questions so that you can ramble on and on while they are trying to think about what question to ask next or whether they've covered all the points that they wanted to cover. Tip number 6, okay. A lot of people don't get why HR asks what they refer to as, third-degree questions. So they're asked repeatedly about one thing, okay. It's actually called competency-based interviewing, when they're trying to surface actual behaviors related to a specific job competency that they want to evaluate you for. So in the job interview process, be prepared to cite actual behaviors. So you're going to be asked, for example, what contributions did you make in your previous job? And they're going to ask you for each of the contributions, what did you do? How did people react to your suggestions? What problems did you encounter? How did you actually implement the programs that you suggested? What were the results? They will try to complete that process, to make sure that, that there is a competency in place, that you actually know about it, that you actually can do it, that there were results, okay, that can be shown for your efforts, okay? So, competency-based interviews try to cover the whole cycle of the experience. What did you do? What exactly happened? Okay, how did other people react? What were the results? They will try to complete that cycle. Okay, tip number 7, review your resume. Make sure that you know exactly what is in the resume that you submitted to HR. There is nothing more embarrassing than realizing that the resume that they're holding is a very, very old resume, okay? Or it's a resume that contains facts that you already corrected. So make sure that you review the resume that you submitted to HR. Try to recall the dates, the specific milestones related to what is in your resume. The interview process is also a validation process. They want to check, if there are gaps in your resume, Okay, like if the dates match, because they'll try to account for the fact that, what did you do on certain dates? Because if there are like years that are missing, they'd like to find out what were you doing on those years. Okay, maybe you were in prison, maybe you were in a hospital. Okay, so recall what you did. What were the functions? What were the responsibilities that you did in each of the jobs that you listed in your resume, and recall specific achievements, okay, so that you can talk about them. So it's also important that you volunteer this information, yung importante information about each of the jobs that you listed in your resume. Tip number 8 is simple. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? There are actually 6 P's. Proper preparation and practice prevent poor performance. There is just no substitute for it. So practice, boost your confidence level. Get a friend to ask you certain questions and rehearse. Okay, rehearse. Okay, how are you going to answer certain questions? Even simple questions like, who are you? Okay, tell me about yourself. Okay, what would you consider your strengths and your weaknesses? Okay, what are you bringing to our company? Okay, Catriona Gray did not ace that question out of the blue. She actually prepared for it. Okay, she had the whole team rehearsing her for the Miss Universe contest. Okay, so these are the 8 tips that I can share with you in terms of how to prepare for the job interview. Next week, we will talk about, which will be the last part of this 3-part series on how to get hired. We'll talk about how to actually ace the interview process. We'll talk about what really happens during an interview and what you can do, okay, to make sure that you ace that interview. My name is Bong Austero. Please subscribe to this channel. Please click the notification button so that you get notified every time I come up with a new video for this channel. Thank you for watching. God bless you.